The stars above Earth Station 9 blinked quietly, as if watching the strange meeting about to take place. A human diplomat named Tom stood near the docking bay, adjusting his collar. His uniform was clean, but worn at the edges. He had seen battles. But this was something new. Peace, talks, marriage, ships had come and gone before. But none like this. The Corellan Royal Cruiser moved like a silver blade across the dark sky. Its shape was long and elegant, glowing softly with blue lights that traced its surface. This was not a warship, but it came with power. Everyone on the station could feel it. Tom had been chosen by the Human Council to welcome the Chirolans. He was calm and respectful, but inside, his mind raced with questions. Why him? Why now? The doors of the ship opened. A line of armored guards stepped out first. Behind them walked a young woman, tall, graceful, and silent. She wore a flowing blue robe marked with royal lines. Her dark hair shimmered slightly as she moved, and her eyes watched everything with quiet curiosity. This was Mira, the youngest daughter of the Corellan royal family. Tom stepped forward, bowing slightly. Welcome to Earth territory. I'm Tom. It's an honor. Mira tilted her head, then gave a small nod. Her voice was soft, but firm. We accept your greeting, Tom. You were chosen, yes, by the council. She studied him for a second longer, then smiled just a little. Then I will speak plainly. The Corellan Empire wishes peace with Earth. To seal this, I offer myself for union. Tom blinked. Union? You mean marriage? Yes. There was no hesitation in her voice. Tom wasn't sure what to say. He looked around, but no one moved. The guards behind Mira stood still like statues. His voice came out slower than usual. Why me? Mira stepped closer, her eyes steady. Because your people listen to you, and because you do not rush. The war taught us to fear humans. You taught us to look again. Tom had led a mission once years ago that saved a small Corellan outpost from destruction. He didn't talk about it much, but maybe they remembered. Still, marriage. He cleared his throat. You're offering marriage to build peace between our worlds. Yes, she said. But I must tell you something before you answer. Tom nodded slowly. She looked him in the eyes. I have 3 elder sisters. Corellan law does not allow a union unless they all give approval. And in our tradition, if one accepts, the others may not stay away. Tom raised an eyebrow. Are you saying they would all expect to marry too? Mira nodded. Eventually. You must understand our people see marriage not as a private matter, but a family one. You would be joining more than one heart. Tom stared at her. The silence between them stretched. Then, as if sensing his confusion, Mira added, This is not to trap you. You may walk away, but if you choose me, they will come. He took a deep breath. This was much more than what he'd expected. He thought he was here to talk about trade, culture, peace terms. But now a princess was offering herself no, her whole family through marriage. Will they be angry? Tom asked. That you came first? They already are, she said, with a calm voice. They wanted to meet you before I made the offer. But I moved ahead. Tom looked down at his hands. He wasn't a prince or a leader. He was just a soldier who had learned to talk when the war ended. He looked back at her. And what do you want? Do you want peace, or do you want me? Mira didn't smile, but her voice was softer now. I saw what you did for our people when you didn't have to. I heard how you spoke with mercy when others wanted blood. I believe you would not take power for power's sake. That is why I chose you, not just for peace. Tom felt the weight of her words settle on him. It wasn't about looks or wealth. It was something deeper: trust, maybe even hope. He gave a small nod. Then I accept the proposal, at least to begin. But I want to meet your sisters. Mira turned her head slightly, as if listening to a voice only she could hear. They are already on their way. Tom raised his eyebrows. Of course they are. Mira looked up at him again. I will stay here, on your station, until they arrive. But know this: once they come, you will not be choosing just one of us. You will be choosing all. He sighed. That's a lot of responsibility. She simply replied, that is marriage. For us. The stars above continued to blink. But now the station felt less like metal and wires and more like a place between two worlds. Tom had just taken the first step into something far bigger. Then peace talks. He turned and walked beside her through the station halls. Officers and crew stopped to stare at the strange sight, one human, one alien, walking shoulder to shoulder, heading toward a future neither of them fully understood. And in the distance, 3 royal ships moved quietly through space, carrying sisters who would not be left behind. Tom stood near the station window, watching 3 glowing ships approach. They were royal class, smooth and sharp like swords in the sky. His mind was full of questions. Just 2 days ago, he was preparing for a normal treaty mission. Now, he had accepted a proposal from a Corellian princess and was about to meet her 3 sisters. Beside him, Mira stood calmly. She wore a soft silver robe today. Her long hair was tied back. She looked peaceful, but Tom could tell she was thinking deeply. "They will arrive soon," she said. "Should I be nervous?" Tom asked with a dry smile. Mira looked at him. "They are not cruel, but they are strong. Each one is different." Tom nodded slowly. "I suppose that's what makes families interesting." He didn't know what to expect. Mira was kind, respectful, and soft-spoken. Would her sisters be the same, or would they fight him like a test? The docking bay lights turned red, then green. The first ship landed. Steam hissed as the door opened. Out walked a tall woman in dark armor. Her eyes were sharp, her walk firm. She looked like someone who didn't need guards. Her name was Lena, the oldest sister, and a Corellian general. Behind her came the second. She wore a thick tool belt and had a strange glowing device on her arm. Her fingers moved as if always building something, even when empty. Her name was Ressa, a master of machines and engineering. Then came the last one. She didn't wear armor or tools. She wore a long dark cloak and held a folded tablet. Her eyes moved like a hawk's, watching everything. Her name was Kira, a sharp-minded strategist. The 3 sisters stood in front of Tom. He bowed slightly. "Welcome. I'm Tom." Lena's voice was deep and steady. "We know who you are." Ressa tilted her head. "You don't look very royal." Kira just crossed her arms. "And yet Mira chose you." Tom stood calmly. "I didn't come here to impress. I came to help build peace." Lena stepped forward. "Do you know what it means to take a royal bride?" "Human," Tom replied. "I'm starting to learn." Ressa looked at Mira. "You should have waited." "I made my choice," Mira said simply. Kira's eyes narrowed. "We are not angry that you chose. We are angry that you chose alone." Mira looked at them one by one. "You never trusted outsiders." "I did. That was the difference." The tension in the room grew. Tom raised a hand. "I didn't come here to divide a family." "If you don't want this," Lena interrupted him. "It's not that simple. Our tradition is old. If one sister chooses a bond, the others must be given a chance. That's how balance is kept. That's how power stays united." Tom looked confused. "You mean you must also marry me?" "Not must," Kira said coldly. "But if we accept you, it becomes a shared bond. It is not about romance. It is about unity." Ressa stepped forward. "And to accept you, we must know you. We will not trust you just because Mira does." Tom nodded. "Then let's talk. Ask what you want. I'll answer." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Talking is easy, but truth shows best in action. We don't want your words. We want your strength, your loyalty, your patience." Tom looked at Mira. "Is this another test?" Mira answered softly. "It's their way." Lena stepped closer. "You will spend time with each of us. Separately, we will see your heart. Then, we decide." Tom kept his voice steady. "Then I accept your challenge." Ressa gave a small smile. "Good. We start tomorrow. Bring strong boots." "Why?" Tom asked. "You'll see," she replied, walking past him with a curious grin. Kira didn't smile. She stared at him a little longer, then turned away. "We will see what the human is truly made of." The 3 sisters left the room one by one. The air felt cooler after they were gone. Tom turned to Mira. "They don't like me. They don't know you yet," Mira said. Tom gave a small laugh. "They might throw me into a volcano." Mira smiled for the first time that day. "If they do, climb out. That will impress them. Tom walked with her down the corridor. The station felt different now. Before, it was a place of peace talks. Now it was a testing ground. A place where four sisters would decide whether one human could truly join their world. He looked at Mira. Why did you really pick me first? She paused before answering. Because you do not run, even when you don't understand something. You face it. That is rare. Tom didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. If he wanted peace between Earth and the Corellan Empire, he had to earn the trust of all four sisters, not just with words, but with actions. And starting tomorrow, he would begin that journey. The next morning, Tom woke up early. The space station was still quiet. The artificial lights above had just shifted to a warm yellow, signaling the start of a new day. He stood by the window, thinking about what was coming. The sisters had made it clear he would face 3 trials, not for sport or fun, but to prove something to them. They wanted to see who he really was. Mira entered quietly. She wore a soft blue robe. Her hair was tied behind her head in a simple style. Are you ready? She asked. I don't know, Tom said, giving a small smile. But I'll try. She nodded. Lena will come for you soon. Remember, she watches actions more than words. Before Tom could reply, the door opened, and Lena stepped in. She was wearing dark gray armor. Her expression was serious, like a soldier going to battle. Follow me, she said. Tom grabbed his jacket and followed her through the halls. No one spoke. They stepped into a transport ship and flew down to a training field on a nearby moon. The ground was rocky and dry. A group of Corellan warriors was already waiting. Lena turned to him. This is where soldiers learn discipline. You will complete 1 full day of training with them. Tom looked at the others. They stood in perfect rows, tall and focused. He nodded. All right. The training was hard. The Corellan warriors ran across rough land, climbed stone walls, and lifted heavy blocks. Tom wasn't as fast as them, but he didn't stop. Sweat ran down his face, and his arms burned, but he pushed forward. Lena watched from a distance. She didn't speak, but she saw everything. At one point, a warrior beside Tom fell during a climb. Without thinking, Tom turned back and helped him up. The warrior gave him a surprised look, then nodded with respect. By the end of the day, Tom was covered in dust. His legs ached, but he was still standing. Lena walked up to him. You don't match our strength, she said, but you have spirit, and you do not leave others behind. Is that enough? Tom asked. She looked at him for a moment. It's a start. They flew back in silence, but Tom noticed something new in her eyes, not coldness, but respect. The next day, it was Ressa's turn. She arrived with a small hovercraft, filled with tools and devices. I hope you're not afraid of machines, she said with a grin. Tom smiled. Only the ones that explode. Ressa laughed. Good, then let's build one. They flew to a repair station floating above the Corellan Sea. Inside, broken machines and half-finished ships were everywhere. We're fixing a power relay, she said. Without it, this place goes dark. Tom rolled up his sleeves. Just tell me what to do. Ressa handed him a tool. Try not to fry your fingers. They worked for ours. Wires sparked. Panels opened and closed. Ressa moved quickly, explaining. As she went, Tom didn't understand everything, but he followed her lead. At one point, the relay overloaded. A blue spark shot out, and smoke filled the air. Tom reached out and cut the power with his bare hand, burning his palm slightly. Ressa rushed over him. Are you mad? He shook his hand and smiled. Better a small burn than a full fire. She stared at him, then shook her head. You're strange, but useful. They laughed together. By sunset, the relay was fixed. The lights in the station glowed again. Ressa crossed her arms and leaned on a wall. You're not an engineer, but you listened. You learned. That's more than I expected. Tom looked at his hand. Well, I learned that power cables bite. Ressa chuckled. You did well. The third day, Kira arrived. She wore a dark robe, her eyes sharp as always. No tools, no running, she said. Just talk. Tom followed her into a small room with a round table. A screen showed maps of different planets, numbers flashed. Messages scrolled. "This is a political test," she said. "You will handle a mock crisis between two colonies. I will play the council leader. You must convince me to avoid war." Tom sat down. "Let's try." The test began. Kira asked hard questions. She changed her tone, switched opinions, and challenged his answers. Tom stayed calm. He asked questions. He listened. He found a middle path, offering both sides something they could accept. He didn't shout. He didn't try to win. He tried to understand. Kira leaned back when it ended. "You don't control the room," she said. "But you made it listen." Tom shrugged. "Sometimes people just want to be heard." She tapped the table. "You may not be a leader in the way we know it, but you are something else." "What's that?" "A bridge." That evening, the four siblings sat together for the first time. Mira looked at her sisters. "Well," Lena spoke first, "he doesn't quit, and he doesn't leave people behind. I respect that." Ressa smiled. "He's clumsy with tools, but he doesn't panic. I like that." Kira didn't smile. "He doesn't act like a prince. That might be why we need him." Tom looked at them. "Does that mean I passed?" Mira turned to him. "It means they're listening now." Tom leaned back. "That's good, because I'm just getting started, for the first time." All four of them smiled together, and far above, the stars watched as one human began to change not just a family but an empire. Tom walked quietly through the long glass corridor of the station. The stars outside were calm, like scattered lights in a quiet sky. But inside him, things were not calm. After completing the 3 trials, he thought the hardest part was over. But now, something didn't feel right. He had seen how the sisters looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. There was tension between them. Not open anger, but something hidden and old. It wasn't about him. It was something deeper. Tom stopped in front of the main garden hall. The doors were open, and soft blue light came from inside. He stepped in. Quietly, Mira was sitting alone beside a small tree with glowing leaves. Her hands were resting in her lap. Her eyes were on the floor. She looked up as he entered. "You couldn't sleep?" she asked. Tom shook his head. "Too many thoughts." Mira nodded slowly. "I understand." He sat beside her. "Mira, can I ask something?" "Yes, your sisters. They seem close, but also distant." Mira looked at the glowing tree. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she spoke, softly. "We were not always like this. There was a time when we trained together, laughed together, dreamed together. But over time, things changed." "Why?" Tom asked. "Our parents died early. The empire needed strength. Lena took charge. She became a warrior. Ressa hid in machines. Kira went to the council halls. I was left behind, the youngest, quiet, forgotten." Tom listened without speaking. "I never blamed them," Mira continued. "They had duties. They carried heavy burdens. But I stayed in the shadows. When I chose you, it was the first time I did something without waiting for them." Tom understood now. Her choice had opened old wounds. "You didn't just choose me," he said. "You changed the balance." "Yes," Mira whispered. "And now, they must learn to accept me not as the quiet sister, but as someone who also makes choices." Tom nodded. "Then let's help them, not as a leader or a soldier, just as someone who cares." Mira looked at him, her eyes soft. "That is why I chose you." Later that day, Tom was invited to a formal lunch with the 4 sisters. The table was long and shining, filled with food from both Earth and Corellan cultures. Servants moved quietly, but the air around the table was tight. Lena sat at one end, stiff and silent. Ressa picked at her food, her tools still on her belt. Kira scrolled through a tablet, pretending not to listen. Mira sat beside Tom, quiet but steady. Tom cleared his throat. "You know, Earth has a game called Truth Circle. We used to play it during peace talks to break tension." The sisters looked at him. He smiled. "One person asks a question. Everyone answers honestly. No judgment." Lena raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like a trap." Ressa chuckled. "Sounds like fun." Kira set her tablet down. "Fine, start." Tom leaned back. "All right, first question. What's one thing you've always wanted to say to your sisters but never did? Silence. Then Mira spoke. I wish someone had noticed when I was lonely. Ressa blinked. Lena frowned. Kira looked down. Tom nodded. Thank you for saying that. Who's next? To his surprise, Ressa spoke. I always felt like the only time I mattered was when something was broken. I wanted someone to ask. How I was not just what I could fix. Lena shifted slightly. Her hand tightened on the table. Kira's voice came next, low and careful. I studied and planned for the Empire, but I always felt like I was in a room alone. I never knew how to be soft. Now all eyes turned to Lena. She didn't speak right. Away. Finally, she said, I carried too much. I didn't trust anyone else to carry it. But maybe I should have. The room was silent. Then Tom smiled. See? Not a trap. Ressa laughed lightly. Mira gave a small smile. Even Kira looked less cold. Later that evening, Kira walked with Tom in the strategy chamber. You knew that would open something, she said. Tom nodded. I guessed, but I wasn't sure. You did more in one meal than some leaders do in a year. I didn't do it alone. Kira stopped and looked at him. You're not like others we've met. I hope that's a good thing. It is, she said softly. But it also means change. And change brings eyes. Tom frowned. What do you mean? She walked to the wall and touched a glowing panel. A screen showed data feeds and reports. There's someone in the court, watching closely. Not all are happy about this marriage bond. They see it as weakness. Tom crossed his arms. You think someone will try to stop it? I don't think. I know. That night, Mira stood at the balcony. With Lena, the stars above were sharp and cold. I saw the way you looked at him, Lena said. Mira turned to her. What do you mean? You admire him. You believe in him. I do. Lena sighed. Then I'll protect him, even if I don't fully trust him yet. For you? Mira nodded. That's all I ask. Down the hall. Ressa sat with Lana, one of the engineers. He risked his hand to save the relay. Stupid move, but brave, Lana said. Ressa smiled. Yes, very brave. In the shadows of the station, a hidden figure moved through the dark. A small device was planted near the station's energy core. The countdown began, slow and silent. Far above, the stars blinked again. Peace had begun, but danger was near. And the human at the center of it all was about to face more than just family trials. He would soon face the enemies hiding behind masks. The next day, the space station was alive with excitement. A grand event was planned in the central hall. Corellan nobles, human ambassadors, and allied leaders had gathered to witness something rare, peaceful bond forming between a human and a royal Corellan family. Tom stood near the tall glass doors of the hall, dressed in a formal dark uniform. His jacket had a simple symbol of both Earth and Corellan unity stitched near the chest. Mira stood beside him, wearing a soft white robe with silver threads woven through it. Her sisters were near. Lena stood tall in armor like formal wear. Ressa had her own tools hidden neatly beneath her sleeves, and Kira had her tablet by her side. Watching everything carefully, the room was full of quiet voices, music, and glowing light. People from both worlds smiled and bowed. But behind the walls and under the polished floors, danger waited. In the engine sector of the station, a hidden device blinked. A silent timer counted down. A shadow moved between machines, unseen by the guards. Back in the hall, Kira stepped closer to Tom. Something feels wrong, she said in a low voice. Tom raised an eyebrow. What is it? I'm not sure, she replied. But I've seen enough rooms to know when people are too calm. Lena was already scanning the crowd. Ressa walked toward a nearby power panel and quietly checked the system. Then it happened. The lights flickered. Music stopped. A sharp sound echoed through the hall, like a warning bell. Red lights blinked. An officer ran in, shouting, Emergency in the energy core. A system overload has begun. Evacuation may be necessary. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Nobles stood in fear. Ambassadors looked around for help. Tom turned to Ressa. Can it be stopped? She checked her small scanner. Maybe, but only from the lower core room. Someone placed a sabotage device. It's not a normal failure. Kira's eyes darkened. This was planned. Someone wanted to strike during the ceremony. Lena stepped forward. We need to move, Ressa. Go to the core. I'll clear the path. Tom spoke quickly. I'll go with her. No, Lena said. It's too dangerous. Tom looked at her. That's why I'm going. For a moment, she hesitated, then nodded. Go. I'll hold the hall. Tom and Ressa ran through the metal corridors of the station, alarms echoing around them. Smoke filled the air near the lower levels. The energy core was glowing red on the scanner. This device is drawing power from the main core, Ressa said, checking her tools. If we don't stop it, the station will lose control. They reached the core door. It was locked. Tom didn't wait. He grabbed a long metal rod nearby and used it to break the emergency latch. Sparks flew as the door opened. Inside, he hit them like a wave. The core room pulsed with unstable energy. A small round device was attached to the wall near the power line. That's it, Ressa said. But it's armed. If I touch the wrong wire, it will explode. Tom looked at the toolkit. Tell me what to hold. Ressa gave him quick instructions. Sweat ran down her forehead as she worked. Her fingers moved fast but steady. Then dash click. The device made a sound and powered down. The light stopped blinking red. The engine core began to cool. Tom exhaled. You did it. Ressa sat back, breathing hard. We did it. A voice came through Tom's earpiece. It was Mira. The council is safe. What's your status? We're fine, Tom replied. Crisis avoided. Back in the hall, Lena had formed a protective wall between the crowd and the main door. Mira stood behind her, calming the guests. Kira had traced the signal used to trigger the device. She found it. A small badge worn by one of the Corellan nobles was sending silent pulses. Kira approached quietly and took the device from his robe. You were planning to destroy everything for your own cause, she said. The noble tried to run, but guards stopped him. He was taken away silently. Kira handed the badge to Mira. It's over, for now. That night, the station returned to normal. The council thanked Tom and the sisters. The marriage bond ceremony was delayed but not canceled. In the quiet room beside the garden hall, the four sisters and Tom sat together. No guards, no nobles, no ceremony, just them. Ressa placed the disarmed sabotage device on the table. That was close. Lena nodded. You saved more than this station. Kira looked at Tom. You could have run. Most would have. But you didn't. Tom shrugged. Didn't feel right to run? Not when people were in danger? Mira smiled softly. This is what I saw in him. Not strength in battle, but strength in heart. Lena looked at him seriously. I questioned Mira's choice, but now I see why she picked you. Kira leaned back. And now the Empire sees it too. Tom looked around at all of them. I didn't do this alone. I had help from each of you. The four sisters looked at one another. For the first time, they felt something they had forgotten. Not just duty, not just tradition. Trust. Far above the station, a message was sent to the Corellan capital. It was short and clear. The human has passed every test, and the royal sisters stand as one. The road to peace was not over, but it had taken a powerful step forward, and in the center of it stood a human who never asked for a crown, only a chance to be accepted. The station had returned to peace, but the Royal Council was not finished. Even after Tom helped stop the sabotage, there were voices in the Empire who doubted him. Some still believed humans were too wild, too emotional, or too unpredictable to bond with Corellan royalty. The High Speaker of the Royal Court sent a message to Mira. Before final approval, the human must face the test of harmony. Only then can the bond be accepted across the Empire. Tom sat beside Mira in her private chamber as she read the message out loud. Her face showed calm, but Tom could sense the weight behind it. What's the test of harmony? He asked. Mira looked at him. It is an ancient tradition. It was once used when our ancestors joined with other species. The test doesn't judge strength or knowledge. It judges how well a person can connect with others, not just one, but many. Tom leaned back. And if I fail, then the council may deny our bond, Mira said softly. And my sisters will not be able to support it either. Tom nodded slowly. Then I have to pass. The next morning, Tom stood in the center of a large chamber deep inside the station. The ceiling opened to the stars, for rings of stone floated quietly around him, and the chamber was silent except for the hum of power. One by one, the four sisters entered the room. Mira stood to the north, wearing a soft white robe that shimmered with light. Lena stood to the east, her armor glowing faintly under her dark cloak. Ressa walked to the south, tools and parts clipped to her belt. Kira stood to the west, a tablet in her hands, her eyes thoughtful as always. The high speaker's voice echoed from the center of the hall. This human has chosen the bond of peace. But the heart of Corella does not beat alone. It beats in harmony. He must face each bond, and he must pass them all. Tom took a deep breath. The first test came from Lena. She stepped forward and tossed him a practice staff. Face me, she said, not to win, but to stand. Tom caught the staff and raised it. Lena circled him. Then she moved fast, testing his reaction, his balance, his calm. She did not fight to hurt, only to measure. Tom blocked, stepped back, and stayed steady. He never attacked first. When he slipped, he stood again. When she knocked the staff from his hand, he picked it up without anger. After many minutes, Lena lowered her weapon. You stand with control. You pass. Next came Ressa. She brought him into a quiet workshop. A table held parts from the damaged energy core. Wires, tools, blinking lights. Fix the flow, she said, without guessing, without rushing. Tom looked at the parts. It wasn't a puzzle, this was a system. He remembered the power room. He remembered the red lights, the humming sound of the core, and the heat. He worked slowly. He asked questions. Ressa watched closely but said nothing. Then, at last, a soft green light blinked on. Ressa smiled. You don't fix with force. You fix with care. You pass. The third test came from Kira. She brought him into a dark dome. Star maps surrounded them. She tapped a panel. An alien. Languages lit up on the screen. You must speak without words, she said. Describe Earth. Not with data but with feeling. Tom paused. Then he began to move. He touched a button to show force, wide rivers, and falling rain. He showed music playing in parks, children running across fields, fire in the sky as rockets launched. He paused at a picture of an old woman smiling, holding a baby. Kira watched. You pass, she said quietly, because now I feel what you feel. Then Mira stepped forward. Your last test is not of mind or body, she said. It is of choice. She reached out and opened her hand. Inside was a single crystal, glowing soft blue. This is the symbol of our bond, she said. But if you take it now, without my sister's support, the council will break apart. You must let them place it in your hand. Tom didn't move. Lena stepped forward first. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Ressa followed, smiling with pride. Kira came last, standing silently before him, then nodding. Together, the three sisters touched the crystal and placed it in Tom's hand. Mira looked at them. Now the bond is complete. The high speaker raised both hands. The test is passed. The bond is accepted. Let the stars witness it. Later that evening, the five of them stood on the viewing deck. Tom looked out at the stars. I didn't expect all this when I signed up for a simple cargo job. Lena smirked. You've passed royal training now. Ressa leaned against the railing. Better than most of our own kind. Kira tapped her tablet, and the Empire just confirmed it. Your name is now recorded in the royal archives. Mira stepped closer. You're no longer just a visitor. Tom, you're part of this family. And this future. Tom smiled. I'll try not to mess it up. The sisters looked at one another, each with their own smile, for the first time in generations. For royal sisters stood together in unity, and beside them, the one human who changed everything, not by power, but by patience, courage, and heart. The next morning, the royal sisters brought Tom to the heart of the floating palace's circular hall made of crystal and light. The Empire's council had gathered. Old rulers, advisors, and leaders from other systems stood quietly as the sisters approached. Tom stood between them, wearing simple dark robes. He looked across the glowing floor and saw the faces of dozens of alien species. Their expressions were calm, but their eyes studied him carefully. The High Speaker stepped forward. "Human," she said clearly, "you have passed the test of harmony. The sisters of House Varellan have placed their trust in you. But now, one question remains." She raised her hand. A thin beam of light appeared, floating in the air like a thread. "Do you accept the royal bond with not just one, but with all 4 daughters of the house? Their lives will be joined with yours. Their future will walk beside your own. If you say yes, the Empire will accept it, but only if your heart is certain." The hall became silent. Tom looked at Mira. She gave a small nod. He turned to Lena. She stood tall, her strength wrapped in honor. Ressa gave him a thumbs up, a grin on her face. And Kira tilted her head, watching him with quiet, gentle eyes. Tom took a breath. "When I first met Mira," he said, "I had no idea what would come next. I didn't know about tests, or royal rules, or ancient traditions. I only knew one thing: she stood by me when no one else did." He looked at the other 3, and then her sisters did the same. They helped me, trusted me, and stood beside me. So yes, I accept all of them. The light thread glowed brighter. The High Speaker smiled faintly. "Then so it shall be." The celebration began at once, across the station and through every Karellan world. The news spread the royal bond had been accepted by all 4 sisters and the human named Tom. Ships in orbit flashed their lights. People gathered in domes and cities to watch the ceremony broadcast across the stars. For the first time in history, the royal house had accepted a single outsider as a shared bond partner, someone not of their blood, not of their world, and not chosen by war or power, but by choice. Mira took Tom's hand and led him to a platform overlooking the main chamber. She lifted his arm gently. The crowd below cheered. Beside them, Lena crossed her arms with pride. Ressa whistled loudly and tossed sparks into the air with a tiny gadget. Kira smiled as she recorded everything for the royal records. The people weren't just watching a union. They were watching the start of something new. Later that night, Tom sat outside on a quiet balcony. The stars stretched endlessly in the distance. He was still getting used to the weight of what had happened. Mira stepped beside him. "It's strange, isn't it?" she asked. "How quickly things change." Tom nodded. "I still feel like a visitor sometimes, like I don't belong." "You belong more than you know," Mira said gently. "You didn't force your way into this. You were chosen, not just by me, but by my sisters, and now by the people." Tom gave a small smile. "So what happens now?" Before Mira could answer, Lena joined them. "Now we show the galaxy what this bond means." Ressa slid into a seat, waving a tool in one hand. "We fix things, like we always do." Kira appeared next, holding a map. "We travel, speak, learn, teach. The Empire needs more than just rulers. It needs connection." Tom looked at all of them. "You mean we become ambassadors?" "In a way," Mira said. "You will speak for Earth, and we will speak beside you." Weeks passed. Tom and the sisters began their first tour across the Karellan worlds. At every stop, they were greeted by cheers, curiosity, and sometimes doubt. But Tom never acted like he was better than anyone. He didn't speak in big speeches. He listened. He asked questions. He told stories. And that made all the difference. On one world, he helped repair an old water system. On another, he played games with local children. On a colder planet, he simply sat with a group of elders and listened to their stories. The royal sisters were always nearby, sometimes watching, sometimes joining, always supporting. Soon, the people stopped calling him the human outsider. They started calling him the bondkeeper. One day, after visiting a distant moon colony, Tom stood with Mira under a quiet sky. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" he asked. Mira laughed softly. "You mean begin like this?" Tom chuckled. "Yeah, I guess that's more accurate." She looked up at the stars. "Our people used to think bonds were only about power or duty, but you showed us something else." "And what's that?" Tom asked. "That sometimes The strongest bond begins when you simply choose to stand beside someone no matter what. Tom didn't need to say anything. He just held her hand. And above them, the stars burned quietly watching. The man who changed an empire, not by war, not by wealth, but by heart.